Oops. Okay. VUCA is a word that came out of the US Army War College, and they used this to describe the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous environment that was immediately after the collapse of the end of the Cold War period. Businesses have used this term for the last decade, since the 2008 financial crisis, to describe the uncertainty around businesses anywhere across the globe. This is the world we live in today. It's a VUCA world. And you're going to see and hear more and more of this. This is the world we are preparing our kids for. In the past, we had a very certain world. We had a clear pathway and a clear cycle of this is the kind of world you'd go in for. You'd have 9-to-5 jobs. You might be able to explore certain different areas. But today, it's very uncertain. This is the place where universities are actually struggling with this. Higher ed has their own crisis about how to keep the numbers going, how to stay in business. There are several colleges that are being bought or collapsed or merging with other universities and colleges. That's because the business model is no longer working, because they're not able to keep up with this VUCA world. And I'm going to walk you through very briefly on what the VUCA piece looks like, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you bring this into your schools. Volatility requires vision. Not a mission statement, but a vision, a strategic long-term vision for where your organization or institution is going to go in the future. Without the vision piece, and a lot of us use this, call it strategic planning, but strategic planning can be incremental innovation or incremental improvements. We're not in the incremental stage anymore. We are in the VUCA world, which requires rapid innovation. So think about that. How are you as an organization or institution bringing in rapid changes? Does it take you 5 to 10 years to make a change? Because by that time, the world has already shifted. That 5 to 10 year change is irrelevant. How are you going to be able to bring that change about in 2 to 3 years? Strategic plans are shifting in the way that they are developed and the nature of those planning. The lack of unpredictability is what leads to the uncertainty about the world that you're going to be in. And this requires understanding. This requires assuming that the knowledge that we have about the world is incomplete. It requires intuition, which is a skill set that only we as humans have. A robot is not going to be able to be intuitive. And so how do we go back to building that capacity of us as humans becoming a lot more intuitive than we've been? Understanding means throwing away your knowledge, the predictable knowledge that we thought we had, because that predictability is no longer there. Complexity, things that are complex today, this requires clarity, to be very clear in the directions that you give. So as leaders in schools or in organizations, you have to be able to very clearly define what you want people to do. Clarity is critical in the VUCA world. That's the only way you can manage the complexity. Ambiguity requires agility, being agile and quick. The agility to constantly rethink, reinvigorate, react, reinvent, question the status quo. Don't be thinking that this is how we're going to do stuff for the next 10 years. No, you could actually be changing it every 2 years. And what does that look like? And how can you be agile? This is how ambiguity is addressed, by being agile. So VUCA is actually provides, this is the context in which organizations are viewing their current state and their future state. This is what is happening in all industries. They are living in this VUCA world. They have whole task forces dedicated to trying to understand how they're going to address each one of these elements. This presents some kind of boundaries for planning and policy making in organizations, and so it also sets a stage for managing and leading those organizations. So think about how, as schools, we are going to be able to manage and understand the VUCA world. Here's another one. This is the new Big Six. This is from Gallup. The past and the future. I should actually call it the past and the present, because the future is here. In the past, you looked at my paycheck. You know, when you worked for something, you worked for a paycheck. Today, you think about your purpose. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What's my purpose in life? What's my purpose in being in this organization? In the past, you looked at, am I satisfied in this place? Today, you look at, how is this organization or this school or this institution developing me? Where am I acquiring and learning all this skill? Who is my coach? In the past, you had a boss. Today, you have coaches. How is your school helping you coach someone and providing coaches for you? In the past, you looked at an annual review. Today, it's ongoing conversations. There is no such thing as an annual review in most organizations today. In the past, you looked at your weaknesses and areas of improvement. Today, you look at your strengths. It's strengths-based learning and leadership. For students, this is extremely important as well. It applies across the board. In the past, you thought about your job. Today, you think about your life. This is the Big Six shift that has happened in leadership and in roles across all industries, and it's in many ways slowly coming in and impacting education as well. So start to think about how every individual you hire. This is a chart that's produced by a company called Knowledge Works. So you might want to go online and have this checked out. They do a lot of forecasting about the trends that are coming in education. It's a critical piece because the trends that they predict usually come within 5 years. So you want to be able to keep an eye on this. And I'll go through this a little more in detail this afternoon. But basically, what you have here is a change in how schools will function. So they predict that school will take many forms. Sometimes it will be self-organized. They predict that learning will no longer be defined by time and place. They predict that learners and their families will create learning experiences. They also predict radical personalization, which is being sold to us by every company on this planet. Everybody is telling us, if you buy my product, your kids will personalize learning. I have yet to see anything that actually truly does that well. They predict that educators' jobs will diversify as many new learning agent roles. So they have a term for it. They call it learning agent roles, and I'll share with you a couple of roles that they have, which is something that we can bring into schools and organizations right away. Some of the roles are really far-fetched and will take another 5 to 10 years before they come in, so I'm not sharing those with you because that can push back a little bit. They predict that there will be diverse forms of credentials and certificates and reputation markers. This is where I talked about blockchain. Blockchain is going to allow us to do this because so far we have, we've all tried, those of us who are in tech, we've all tried digital badges, we've tried LinkedIn, we've tried ways of keeping track of certificates and our extra credits and online credits. We've done all of that stuff. It hasn't kind of worked very well. because there's always that trust piece that seems to be missing. And so blockchain is going to help us address this thing of being able to have different types of credentials. There are things called micro-credentials now. So when you look at the disruption that's going to come to higher education, it's really going to come from being able to find ways to be able to log all of this learning that we're already doing in schools. You're at this conference, you're going to get a certificate. Is there a way for you to be able to log that somewhere? And would be great if you could do it on blockchain, or somebody created a blockchain system so that down the road, if you move from one school to the next, it automatically went, and the next person who's hiring you already sees that. They don't have to sit there and look at your folder and look at your resume. They have your profile already available very quickly. Very different than LinkedIn, very different than what you can make up on a whole bunch of other platforms. This works purely on trust. Anyway, I'm rambling. This is just one of those things that I know is going to be extremely disruptive and extremely useful for us as consumers of systems. So here's an example of the new learning agent roles that they talk about. Chief Wellness Officer. So this is happening in organizations a lot, where this is a person who can implement and oversee a culture of health at the workplace. They can track your healthy choices. They can monitor and discourage unhealthy practices. They can create processes and policies and practices to better support your individual goals. This is the shift that's happening. So if you look at the HR person's role in a school or any organization, this is going to have to incorporate wellness in it, or you'll need a new wellness officer to do this. Here's another one. As we're living longer, we are looking at neurological training officers. These are people who are going to keep improving the cognitive fitness among all employees. Again, a very critical element of how what we know about neuroscience and how neuroplasticity is going to improve overall for all employees or individuals on the planet. So organizations are already doing it. This is happening already. So now it's a question of figuring out how we bring these into schools. There's a lot of these brain science games, etc. But who's going to be able to track all this? Who's going to be able to help us navigate this whole space that's coming up? So again, another area. KnowledgeWorks also has a new report, which is about redefining readiness from the inside out. It's worth you looking at it. It's a new report that has just come out. These are the core social emotional skills. So if your school is exploring social emotional learning, you might want to tap into this. If you're not exploring it, you want to tap into this. These are the 3 skills students need to succeed in 2040 and beyond. This is a given. This is a non-negotiable. Emotional regulation, empathy and perspective taking, deep self-knowledge. The counselor's role changes dramatically. Every teacher needs to learn how to do this. So think about the kinds of professional development that needs to be provided to schools in order to be able to do this well. Because our kids need this. This is not something they're going to learn after they're 18. This is something they need to start learning now, and it's important for everyone, including us as adults. Another 4 key trends in education, coding as a literacy. So coding is not just about computational thinking or computer science. It's about robotics. It's about machine learning. It's about data science, data analytics. This, in the future, every child will need to learn how to deal with this. So we have to figure out ways where we're providing these learning opportunities to our kids. There's a rise of STEAM or STEM learning. Maker learning is getting embedded and integrated into curricula. So that's, again, very important. And learning analytics using data dashboards is extremely important as well because of the nature of the change and the rapid changes that are happening. And project-based learning. So To move to the future, here are 4 strategies and mindsets and processes I'm going to share with you very quickly. There's VUCA leadership, dual operating system, accelerators, and essential conditions. Think about how your school is empowering stakeholders to lead innovation. This is just something for you to keep at the back of your mind, because the how is what I'm covering through this. The role of leadership in a VUCA world is that you move away from administering a school to innovating. You move away from maintaining to developing. You move away from systems and processes to actually people. You focus more on human beings. You move away from control to inspiring trust. This is critical and an important piece. Here are some quick competencies that we see that are happening for VUCA school leaders. Future-focused, anticipating change, not just being proactive about change, acting decisively without always having a clear direction, challenging the status quo, exploring new ideas, wanting to explore new ideas, having a generative mindset. Think about scenario planning. Strategic planning has become boring the way that it's actually run. It's perfect strategic planning for the 20th century. 21st century strategic planning needs to work on scenario building models. And so exploring that, here's another good book that was written a couple of decades back. It still is, it's probably become most relevant today, is Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence. So having high EQ and emotional quotient is becoming critical for school leaders and to be able to empower others. I talked a little bit about intuition. And intuition, which is a clearly human competency, is something that we have to slowly start developing in our kids. And how do we do that? That's the challenge. Because without the intuitive mindset, we will not be able to navigate this different world. I love Einstein's quote, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So let's think about how we will go back to reviving our intuitive mind and actually helping our kids develop those competencies. Because in the future, they are going to need that more and more. We're going to need it more as well. Adaptability is, again, a very critical piece for a VUCA school leader. All right, dual operating system. It is not possible in any school to bring about change without having a dual operating system. There, I've said it. All right? I've been helping a lot of schools try to do it within their little systems. It doesn't work. You need what is called a dual operating system. And let me explain to you what that looks like. So you can have a big triangle. You can be a little triangle, and then you want to become a big triangle. That's incremental change. That's not innovation. Or you can actually want to transform completely. That transformation from within your schools can only happen if you have 2 operating systems. And so the operating systems that are available to you are hierarchies and networks. Hierarchy is not a bad word. It's very important to have a hierarchy in order to get the function of schooling going, in order to make sure you've got budgets, you've got schedules, you've got recruiting, you've got kids going to classes. All of those pieces are important for a hierarchy. But a hierarchy on its own cannot do explorations of new ideas. And those have to happen in what is called a network. And that network taps into elements of the hierarchy, taps into people in the hierarchy, so that they can bring those ideas into the system. There's a book by John Cotter. If those of you who've haven't heard of him, he's an organizational researcher who's been writing for decades, and he really writes for corporate and for different organizations. But all of his work is applicable for us as educationists, as educators, as schools. So if you get a chance, this is a new book that he wrote in 2000, I think it was 14 or 15, called Accelerate. And it clarifies this model of a dual operating system. It's something I've done. I've implemented this. It works beautifully. But there are certain caveats to this that have to be in place, and I'll talk more about that this afternoon. So in a hierarchy, you need the hierarchy because it gives you reliability, it gives you efficiency, it coordinates the action. This is where your planning, budgeting, your staff training, etc. happens. Those are important. You can't throw those out the window. That's necessary. But you also need the network, which is where your agility. Remember I said ambiguity for the VUCA world? You need the agility. You need to be able to pursue new ideas. You need to be able to work across different silos. That happens through a network. Networks help institutionalize change and do it quickly. Not over a period of a decade, but quickly over a period of 2 to 3 years or even shorter. So that's important. The third idea that I have is called accelerators. This is again John Cotter's idea. John Cotter has a model for accelerators which works very well for corporates. It's an 8-step process. You can do everything you want to do that you would normally take 5 to 10 years. You can do this in 2 to 3 years. If you follow through the accelerator cycle, every organization, every corporate structure in the world uses accelerators. And so what we've done is I've created a model that's more appropriate out of accelerators, out of John Cotter's work. It's more appropriate for education. So it's a simpler model, and we'll talk about that in detail later. But if you truly follow this model, you actually institutionalize change in an organization. And that's what you're about. So it's not person dependent, it's not a human being dependent, it actually gets done as part of the DNA of the organization or the school. Culture. I don't remember who said, I think it was Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so when you think about strategies don't really work unless you have a culture. How do you build a culture? These are some essential conditions that we've come up with that we believe are critical to be able to create a culture where you can have sustained innovation being part of your new status quo. And these are 8 elements. And there we have a rubric that we follow where people can actually measure for themselves. You can self-measure as an organization how you're doing with empowering leadership, how you're doing with design thinking competency, how you're doing with skill capacity building, and what are the actions you want to be able to take to get to the higher level to make sure it's part of the DNA of your culture. So it's, again, not dependent on any individual. This is how it should function, so your DNA has actually shifted. So that's the fourth element of the strategy and idea that I wanted to share with you. The accelerators and the essential conditions actually work hand in hand, and again, I'll talk more about it this afternoon. So these are the 4 pieces: VUCA leadership, dual operating system, accelerators, and essential conditions. If you nail these 4, the school, the organization, the institution becomes a different culture. It's a place where people want to come and work and be able to make life different for our kids. There are different things you can possibly do to all of the work that I've shared with you, all of the ideas I've thrown out. You can ignore everything I've just said, and you can say, you know, there's so much to do already in the work of school. There's so much to focus on in the present that this is great. Let's just leave it. You know, nice to hear what's happening. Or you can prepare yourself for the future. You can try and become more agile. You can become more responsive to be able to do what it takes to position our schools for this unknown world. Or you can go one step further. And I don't know whether it was Lincoln or I don't remember who said that the best way to predict your future is to create it. So another way you could do that is to actually participate and have a role in making that future come alive and come into your schools. Buckminster Fuller says, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's what the disruption cycle does and has been doing. The models, the metaphors, the ideas that we create or promote help shape the future of our institutions and our students' future. I'm going to leave you with this last quote by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. If you haven't heard of him, he's a Lebanese American who has written, he's an economist, he's a historian, he's a writer, he's got many, many hats that he wears. He wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. And he says, how do you become anti-fragile as organizations, as institutions, as human beings? How do you become that? Wind extinguishes a candle and energizes fire. Likewise, with randomness, uncertainty, chaos in today's world, you want to use them, not hide from them. You want to be the fire and wish for the wind. I hope and I wish that you would all want to be the fire and wish for the wind. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shabby. You have given us so much to think about, and we know that many of you will be joining Shabby this afternoon to explore these ideas more in depth. We now have a couple of announcements that will hopefully make your navigation through the day a little bit go more smoothly. Please be reminded that after today, we do have an exhibitor's cocktail. Tonight is our social night here at the school. You saw the kids dance. They did a phenomenal job. This is only a little taste of what the Dominican night is going to hold in store for us. So please make sure that you join us for that tonight. You have all the schedules. Buses will be departing from the hotels promptly around, we don't have a lot of time because obviously it is a long day and some of you expressed that over breakfast. You're welcome to stay at the campus if that's what you choose to do, but buses will be loading up right a little bit after 4, around 4:15, 4:20 to take you back to the hotel and then pick you back up shortly after to bring you to the party. There will be local vendors at the party. Before the party, we have the exhibitor cocktail, which will be held in the library. Every year, we have amazing exhibitors that travel many distances to bring us the best and the newest in instructional materials. So I encourage you to visit the library. They're located in the first and second floor. And this afternoon, during the welcome reception, there will be local vendors who will be exhibiting local crafts from the Dominican Republic. So make sure that you bring some money with you. The coffee break immediately following this plenary is also going to be held in the library in the exhibitor area. We have some tremendous gifts that have been donated to us, and they are going to be raffled off. So join the raffle by going to the exhibitor area and getting your card stamped. We also are asking all presenters to please stay back a few minutes after we're done here for a presenter photo. And I'm now going to ask Nicholas to give us a few more announcements, and followed that with Sylvia Tolisano, who is our social media coordinator, who is going to be talking to us about how we can extend our learning at this conference. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you, Sonia. Just a couple of announcements that's really important for us, all our visitors on campus. Please make sure on your brochure you also would see a map of our school or the campus. Please follow the map to indicate where you need to be. Look at the zones that are in color, A, B, D, F, and G, and also E is the sections where all the conference will be taking place. On the map, you'll have different slides and different signs all around the school. Please look at these signs that will help you navigate through our campus. There will be a lot of people on campus in white shirts. These are our volunteers. Please make sure that you reach out to a volunteer if there's if you have any questions. And then please make sure you will see around campus also some notices how to get on the Wi-Fi, and also please remember hashtag TriConference18. Important, there's an open mic for all the people that would like to do as well as our students today. Please make sure during our lunch times, jump on stage and help us provide a fantastic time with everybody as we're having lunch. Raffle, as Sonia spoke about, please swing by. Inside your package, you would have seen a little card where you can collect 4 stamps. Please make sure that in the information booth in the plaza in front of the library, that you need to just drop your little card in there, and then you will be able, by tomorrow late afternoon, maybe fly around in different parts of the world, thanks to all our sponsors for the raffles. And then Dominican night, Sonia spoke about it. And at this moment, let's get right back into what do we do with us, with our students that provided something for us. And then also Sylvia will talk about how important it is to tweet and to use Twitter around, and to ensure that we communicate to the rest of the world and educators around the world what's happening here at Carol Morgan School with the Tri-Conference. Sylvia, thank you.
Good morning. So let's see if we have. Hopefully last year, you remember we had a wonderful scavenger hunt. And this year we shifted a little bit our focus, and we have another social media challenge for you. The idea is that, that we are able to communicate, capture, and share our learning at the conference. Just to let you know, I don't know if you've been scanning the Twitter hashtag, but if you remember Alison Zamuda from last year, one of the keynote speakers, she is currently in Finland on a field study, and she's following the hashtag, encouraging us to share the learning and to let her know and others know. We've got educators from Mexico, from Panama, who have already let us know that they are watching and that they are connected and want to know what's going on and learn together with you, although they're not physically here. So we have a challenge for you that on both days, if you take the time in front of the library, there are students who are willing to help you with your selfie skills. One of the things that you might not know, it's not just as simple as getting your phone out there and taking the picture. There's actually a science to this. I was recently told that depending where your hair parts, that's your best side. So if you want to have a little help, there are students there that will get you into the selfie mood, and you put your best face forward. Today, we are asking you to contribute a selfie where you share an aha moment in one of your sessions. Just start, obviously, if you want to do more, that's great, but at least think about one aha moment as you're going to the different sessions. What are you learning? What is surprising to you? What is something from Xabi's keynote maybe today that you think is worthwhile to capture and then to share via social media? You may post it to Instagram, you may post it to Twitter, you may post it on Facebook. Just please use the hashtag TriConf18 in order for us to be able to connect with you and to learn from your learning and what you are willing to share. So that's for day one. Day two, and you can, I guess, cheat a little bit and start already with that today as well. Take a selfie or an USSI with another teacher that you already know, that you've just met, and share that as well. The idea is to connect. The idea is to learn from each other and with each other, and to tell that story of the learning. And I know a lot of you, probably, I'm not going to put anybody on a spot to ask, but many people say, selfies? I don't do selfies. It's narcissistic, I'm not into that. But I want to challenge you today a little bit to move outside of your comfort zone, to try something new, to see what's the deal with selfies. The Pope has taken selfies. Barack Obama has taken selfies. There's something to selfies in our culture, and definitely something for our students, for the kids. Let's push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and meet them where they are. And let's figure out how we could use selfies, which, by the way, is not something new, I guess. They are self-portraits from painters throughout the centuries. But let's figure out a way to use selfies and that culture to teach digital citizenship, to help our students create a positive digital footprint. Let's figure this out. So I'm encouraging you to step outside your comfort zone, take on our challenge, take some selfies, and share them with us. And students from the Carol Morgan School have created a short video for you that I'd like to share. Let's see if we can find it. Do we have the selfie? Okay. Flexibility, right? Isn't that what Xabi just told us? So the video is going to be a cliffhanger. It's going to be for tomorrow. But you can get the live video if you go in front of the library. So looking forward to connecting with you online.
Thank you, Sylvia. As we're running out of time at this moment, we want to make sure that you can have that coffee break and then get into the rest of the speakers and sessions. We will actually play the video for you as you walk out. So we'll play it tomorrow also for you, but we'll have it as you decide to leave. Please follow. It's our students that decided to give you advice on how to make selfies. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the day. And remember to enjoy the Dominican Republic. Thank you.